Hey everybody, this is Rich and you're with Beekeeping with Rich, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. Um, so we're going to continue on with the theme of swarm traps. I saw a YouTube video the other day with a guy making a swarm trap out of a 5-gallon bucket, and all I could think through the whole thing was, wow, I could sure do one better than that, so we're going to do one better than that. Um, we're going to start, I'm going to show you this just because I want to make a point. This was a Russian scion. S-C-I-O-N. It's been hanging in my avocado tree for well over a year. Now what that is, it's nothing more than a stick down the middle. You staple some chicken wire to it, wrap the chicken wire around to make a tube, wrap some burlap around that, cover the whole thing with a coating of beeswax and propolis, screw the lid on through the eye bolt here, and it just hangs up there, and the swarm is supposedly will get attracted to it and we'll work from there. It's been there over a year, never worked, never attracted a swarm. Now granted, I have a swarm trap there and a swarm trap there, but bees go where bees want to go. You'd be surprised how often they find someplace else, despite those two lovely swarm traps that I have over there. And this didn't happen until I was trying to do something else just now. But a point I wanted to make in showing you this is propolis tincture sludge that I painted on here over a year ago. So in case anybody thinks, well, that stuff's just going to flake off, blah, 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 you'll see why I'm saying this in just a minute. So that's something that didn't work, so we're not going to spend any time on it. Anywho, now we're going to get on with it. So 5-gallon bucket. A lot of people will make a swarm trap using a 5-gallon bucket this way, but there's no reason not to make a 5-gallon bucket swarm trap this way. For one thing, you drill the hole down here and they have a chance to climb up. Now we'll start getting into why I showed you that sludge, old dried sludge on there. Check my earlier videos. We will do a link in the description, but I make propolis tincture and I make sludge. And while you can make money doing this, this to me is the more valuable thing. Here is a jar of just sludge.
Lovely.
Yes, lovely. So, about an hour ago, I dipped the brush. It doesn't matter if the brush dries out in between. As soon as it hits the alcohol, it softens back up anyway. About an hour ago, I dipped the brush. And first thing I did, I took a piece of 80 grit sandpaper and I lightly went over the inside of the bucket. And then in less than a minute, I swirled around and coated the whole inside of this with propolis sludge. So now it smells like bees and it's got great traction for bees. Should be very bee happy. Okay, and the other thing that I did, granted it takes a couple of more minutes, but really not that much. People making these traps just put the lid on and that was it. Well, all I did was take a scrap of 3/8 plywood. Piece of Luan would work just as well. It doesn't matter. But it's like, why don't they do some crossbars in there? And I don't mean putting them, cross here and here. Put them in the lid. I just took this piece of 3/8 yesterday evening, and I took these little pieces of square dowel and glued them in here with Titebond 2. No nails, no nothing, just glued them in with Titebond 2. They're not on a 1 3/8 inch spacing. 1 3/8 inch is your standard spacing with a regular frame. It's a compromise. 1 1/4 is the best spacing for brood comb, and 1 1/2 is the best spacing for honey. 1 3/8 is just a compromise so that they have about the right space for whatever they want to do. But since we want them to start drawing brood comb, I put these on a 1 1/4 center rather than a 1 3/8 center. If they were in here long enough, not that they would be, but if they were in here long enough, I also coated this with propolis to make it nice and rough. If they want to build some honeycomb out here, they can. Now, what's to stop them from starting their honeycomb building way over here? Nothing. Bees are going to do what bees are going to do. All we're trying to do is encourage them to do what we want them to do. And what I want them to do is draw their comb straight along these dowels. We'll just have to wait and see whether it works or not. This may be a failure. You never know.
It would still be a cutout.
Yeah, it'll be a cutout either way, but I would rather be cutting out from something that was slightly raised from the lip of the bucket rather than, getting down in there. And if you just have the comb there, the comb is probably swirly this way. What's to stop them from putting it this way? Nothing. Again, bees are going to do what bees are going to do. But you put this on there and it snaps on just fine. There was no interference from that. So on to the next step. Next question is, where do you drill your hole? Do you drill your hole right angles? Do you drill your hole in line with the handle? Well, I'm going to drill in line with the handle, thinking that maybe there's just a little more stability if you drill it in line with it. I don't have a center guide in this, so this is going to be a little jumpy. One inch. Now that that's done, we'll just make a better landing board for them. Now, the next thing, the scion was on a cable. Pulley up, attached to a branch up in the tree, and a steel cable up there with a clip on the end of it. It's actually an old dog lead. My dog, after a while, put so many kinks and bends in her tie-out lead that I end up replacing the lead. So if you use the handle on this bucket, you can tie a piece of string here and a piece of string here. The handle, this part will keep this spaced out, so it'll come on up. You can't just clip right here. You don't know where you're going to end up. I'm going to take that one step further. And just pop the handle out altogether. And use a piece of electrical wire. It's long lasting. Could you use string or rope? Sure, but make sure that they're going to be very weather resistant. I know the wire is completely weather resistant, so that's the way I'm going with this. Anything I do here is, of course, subject to you doing whatever you want, the way you want it. I'm just going to do it my way and show you why I do it my way, or tell you why I do it my way. So, we have a bucket, we have a wire. Only thing we lack is any kind of stability. One brick. We now have stability. Just to keep it from any chance of the brick slipping to one side or the other, a couple of pieces of pool noodle, scrap left over from a project. I'm going to tip it over for you there in a second, dear. There you go.
Okay. I have a question.
She has a question.
When you put the lid on, which way are you going to put the frames? Perpendicular to the entrance or parallel to the entrance?
Well, it depends what you call parallel or perpendicular. I'm going to put them in line with the entrance this way.
Okay, parallel.
Okay. As you could use either term either way. You just define your term the way you want. So the only other thing we need is a little bit of swarm lure. And normally I would use, cotton, or I'd use several other techniques. But because I have that brick in there, and bricks are porous, I'm just going to put my lemongrass Well, I can't tip it sideways really, dear, to show you any better. I'm just dropping it like this, and since it's porous, it's going to soak in.
What kind of oil is it? Show the label.
Lemongrass oil.
Okay.
Okay. And some chunks of old comb. I'm going to mostly just kind of stick them behind the brick there.
So they don't block the entrance.
So they don't block the entrance. So we have some skanky old comb. We have some lemongrass oil. We have some stability. Yes, dear. We have a high-tech swarm trap. Now, you don't put a trap like this in full sun. This kind of trap goes in a tree, because this is South Florida, South Texas, Arizona, Southern California, wherever you want, New Mexico, wherever you want. But if you put this out in full sun, don't think too many bees are going to be interested in coming to something in a sauna. But we're going to put it up out here in the top of an avocado tree. Alrighty. Well, when I walked out of here this morning, this was evenly spaced on both sides. You're going to have to cut the camera off for a second. Okay, we're back. This morning, when I took the scion down, there was enough drag up there that this was just hanging like this, and it didn't occur to me to clip the one to the other. But it's okay now. Now, your first question is going to be, hey, but that bucket doesn't really have the required volume for a swarm trap, according to Seeley, and etc., etc. Yeah, this probably isn't a whole lot more. This is probably right about in the range of a 5-frame nuke. Let's see, is that about even? Yeah. But you know what? I've had bees go into a 5-frame nuke box, not even a fully set up nuke, just a stack of nuke boxes that were stacked underneath a swarm trap of good volume.
Under a tarp.
Under a tarp. They went into a stack of nukes that were under a tarp. Went in under to the bottom, crawled in from the bottom, came up, and made their home. There was 3 empty nukes stacked on top of each other, and then there was a lid on top, and they just went up to where the lid covered the top one and just started their colony there. Even though there was a swarm trap there, a swarm trap here, and a swarm trap there, all of which had much better volume. So putting a swarm trap out that has a nuke size volume to it, we'll probably catch a swarm in it anyway. As likely as not. So there you go. High tech, not a lot of time or effort involved in this, as long as you've made your propolis tincture up ahead of time and you've got plenty of propolis sludge on hand, because that just, to me, beats the heck out of heating up old comb and wax and such and smearing it on there. Makes a much more attractive situation for the bees. I can get that higher. I'll get that higher later on. I'll get it all the way up there to the top and put that screw eye in down here or something. But there you go. That is about as simple as it gets to make an extra swarm trap. So this has been Rich, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're going to continue on with this theme of swarms swarm trapping, swarm catching, like we have for the last couple of videos for a while yet. So good luck, everybody. Happy swarms this season. Bye-bye.